enlarged plan shows details at a larger scale that might not be apparent from the regular floor plan. Right, in a complex room, right, we have a clinic and some restrooms here, right, that might be too hard to convey all that detail on the regular floor plan, so we enlarge it or blow it up. Again, here's some other examples of an enlarged plan of a kitchen. Here's an example of a finished floor plan. Again, whoever taught this class before me had added some slides, took some additional examples. Again, this is showing different floor finish materials. If there's patterns or patterns in the carpeting or the tile, this would be the place that you would convey that information. Here's a reflected ceiling plan. So again, it's like you have a mirror on the floor and you're looking up at the ceiling, right? You're not looking down at the ceiling. You know, in a floor plan, you're looking down at the floor. In this case, you're looking up at the ceiling. So this is useful because you can see the layout of the ceiling tiles. This is probably a 2x2 ceiling grid. You know, light fixtures. You might have smoke detectors. If for the fire alarm system, you might have sprinkler heads. You know, all those sorts of things that happen at the ceiling, you're going to see in the reflected ceiling plan. You know, maybe some track lights, right? Those are the sorts of things that are in the reflected ceiling plan. This one is totally crazy. I don't know what this one is, so. Right, here's an example of an overview plan. Again, this is at a smaller scale, so you can see in this case, the entire floor. Right, this looks like an apartment building. Right, you have studio apartments and 2-bedroom apartments and swanky 3-bedroom apartments on the corners. So this gives you an overview of the entire floor, and chances are somewhere else in the set we may divide this into 2 or 3 sections so we can show it in more detail. Or we might just show a detail of a studio or a pair of studio apartments or a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, right? If they're all going to be typical from floor to floor. But this gives us a picture of what the whole floor looks like. Elevations show, all right, remember the plan is a horizontal view of the building. The elevations show things in the vertical layout or vertical dimension. We can have elevations either of the interior or the exterior or both. Again, this will give us more information on construction materials, elevations. We might have additional details or section cuts. Right, typically on the exterior of the building, we're going to have an elevation for each exterior face. You know, could be 4, one for each side of the building. If we have interiors or courtyards, you might have more than one, more than 4 exterior elevations. Right, again, we're going to have north elevation, south elevation, east-west elevation. And they could either be true north or plan north. But we're going to say north elevation, and that might be plan north, so we don't have to say north northwest elevation if the building is cocked at a 45 degrees or something. Again, so our exterior elevations will show the windows, doors, gutters, roof lines. We'll see building materials. Underground features would be things like basement floor slabs or footings, foundations. Those would be shown as dashed lines or hidden lines. An interior elevation, again, shows when we want to convey architectural details, cabinetry, casework, bathroom layouts. Obviously, a kitchen would be a place that we want to have an interior elevation, right? If we have complex details that we're trying to convey to the contracting team. Right, here's an example of an exterior elevation. Again, let me flip to that page so I can see it a little bit better. You probably, hopefully, can see it better in the textbook than you can on your screens. Right, so what are some of the things that we are showing here? You see these things, and it's even in small print in the textbook. But you're seeing elevations of various features. A finished floor elevation. This one says T coping. That would be the top of the coping. Coping being the cap on the masonry wall. Over here, here's a first floor elevation, a second floor elevation, a top of coping. These hidden lines here would be, in all likelihood, either the basement or the foundation wall. Yeah, because over here, here's a lower level elevation, first floor elevation, and then top of coping. And you see a bunch of numbers keyed to an area, to an arrow. Those are key to these material notes here. So rather than trying to write in all that text, they have a material note, and that the number on the note is keyed to this legend down here. And I don't have a bigger view of this one, so I can hardly read some of this text in the textbook. But again, in this case, yeah, you see two east elevations, right? They're both partial, so right, this building is stretched out in the long way north-south, and we're cutting it in two here, right? This little dividing line. So the building is the east elevation in its entirety would be this thing here joined onto this one here. Here's an interior elevation. Again, these happen to be details of bathrooms or restrooms with notes, grab bars or tissue dispensers, grab bars, mirrors, etc., etc. Yes, Ayana.
Hi, good evening. You know what? I had I guess the ARC 104 class today, and Francis was mentioning, I could have heard her wrong, but I thought she said like the bathroom elevations and kitchen elevations are only in like inches. Is that true?
Well, they're typically going to be in a larger scale. This one, This one is still at quarter scale. Um, again, the scale will always be shown, but generally speaking, the scale is going to be a little larger, so it's easier for you to see what's going on and to dimension off of it or to scale off of it if all the dimensions aren't shown. So I'm surprised to only see these at a quarter scale. I would think that they would be bigger, but again, you'll always have to look and check the scale of the various views between the floor plan and the exterior elevation. Right, in this case, right, it's a little hard. You can't see on my screen here, but you can see on the drawings, right, our exterior elevations are at 1/8 scale, right, because we have a lot of a lot of building to fit on the drawing. Our floor plans, I think, were at a quarter scale. These are at a 1/4 inch scale as well. So again, I would almost think an elevation like this would be at a bigger scale, but it's just going to depend on what they're trying to do. Is that hopefully that answers your question?
Yep. But you know what? I'll definitely ask her for clarification. But I see here that it's also not just the scale, but it's also the dimensions are given in 1 foot and 6 inches instead of just 18 inches, I guess. So that's
Yeah, typically dimensions are going to be um, it's almost always going to be feet and inches.
maybe
Rare,
she meant for just the like cabinets, like kitchen cabinets, because maybe that was the point. The cabinets are measured or ordered in inches, I guess. So.
yeah, she might be speaking specifically of cabinets. Oh, yes, since that's her business or part of her business. Okay, so here's interior elevations. Again, a section is we're trying to convey additional details of how something is put together. A wall section would be a common thing to have. Again, we were typically being drawn at a large scale so we can show more complex information. And that section will be identified on a plan drawing or an elevation drawing. Right? Remember on our floor plan drawing, we saw those section view symbols. And we will typically, with our section view symbol, we'll show where the cut is taken and the direction that we are looking in. Right, so these are full building sections. Again, I'm taking them off of this is figure 9-7 on page 156. Right, so these are cuts through the building, vertical cuts through the building to show additional features that you wouldn't see necessarily from the floor plan. So back on a plan, I should see this same section indicated, keyed to this, right? That's section number 1 on sheet A4-06. That would be the sheet we're looking at here. So somewhere back in the floor plans, I should see that section line keyed to this particular drawing. Again, the various drawings should reference each other so you can follow along. But again, we see some additional details here. Right, this looks like the detail at the top of a wall. Here is a wall detail. Here's various elevations. Right, that's the first floor and the top of coping. Over here, a bunch of elevations. This one here at the bottom that says T slab, that would be the top of the slab, top of the floor. This looks like a ceiling elevation at something. Right, here's bleachers, here's a ceiling, right? So we're showing a bunch of elevations, so we can tell again how high various features are, the vertical distance between various features. Here's a wall section, and this one is detail 2 on sheet A5.01. So just for kicks, I'm looking for that same, I'm going back to figure 9-2 to see if I can find where that same wall section comes in, and I'm not finding it right away. Actually, I am, right? This is, no. See, if I wrote the textbook, I would have made it so you can refer back and forth, but that's not what they did here. Again, so this, in plan someplace, we should be able to find reference to this section, and in plan it would show, you know, the section number in the sheet that the section is found on. And again, in this case, this is, sorry, I didn't put it up in the top of the drawing here. This is figure 9-8 on page 157. And you see they did the same thing here, where instead of trying to fit all the text on the drawing, they have a note number, and that note number corresponds to this legend over here, right? So this 05520A, which is this one right here. Let's see what that is. Of course, I'm not finding it in the sheet here, so let me see if I can find one that shows up on both sides. Right, here's this other guy here is 02300A as a number, and then over here it's 02300A says finish grade, refer to site drawings. Right, this one here says 03300C, and over in the material notes I see that same thing that says elevated concrete floor slab. Right, so again, they did it this way to reduce the amount of text that shows up on the drawing proper, and put that text over in a legend. And there's some notes here as well, right? Note. And here's another detail that's would be on the detail sheet, right? This is detail 1 on sheet A5-10. So that's a wall section. Well, here's this particular detail that was in our section, and voila, we see it blowing up a little bit, right? The wall section. Right, this wall section is at 3/4 inch scale. 3/4 inch equals 1 foot. And so it's at a larger scale than what we've seen typically, and now this detail is at yet right? This is at twice the scale of what we had before. This is 3/4 of an inch equals 1 foot. This is 1.5 inches equals 1 foot, right? So we've blown it up by a factor of 2 to make it easier to see. And again, in this case, we have, instead of having this text in the drawing, we've keyed this to these numbers, which goes to a legend someplace. And again, I can't find all the things here in the legend. Let me just see if I can find an example here. Right, this one here says 05300A. In the material notes in the book, it says steel deck referred to S drawings, right? So that's pointing at the steel deck and the insulation. This is some blocking, some more insulation. Here's an I-beam, right? This would be here's a bar joist bearing on the I-beam with some blocking, right? So another detailed drawing, stair detail. The other last type of thing we'll see in a set of architectural plans would be schedules, right? These are lists of materials or products, right? Specify the type, sizes, numbers required. Hopefully we see a similar tag on the floor plan that refers to the schedule. Right? When we looked at the floor plan a couple sheets ago, we saw tags for doors and tags for windows. Hopefully when we go to the door and window schedule, we would see those same things. Right? So some examples: the door and frame schedule. Again, hopefully in the floor plan someplace we would see that same tag number. Right? So room location, what room number it's in, size of the door, type of the door. HM is hollow metal. These types are likely keyed to something that's in the specifications. Right, we saw back in our interior elevations, we saw some of these tags, right? We saw that tag 2 was a grab bar, tag 1 was a toilet tissue holder. Okay, let's do this. We've got a few minutes left in the class. Why don't we spend about 7 or 8 minutes working on the test your knowledge. That's on page 161. So we'll come back about 8:45, and I will call on people who will hopefully give me good answers. So why don't you do the test your knowledge on page 161. I'll put it up on the screen here as well, and we'll come back in a few minutes, and I will see how much you've learned.